Kitty, come here. Hello. Hello, Kitty. Hi. Oh, don't slip. Oh, gosh. Oh, no. Oh. I did it for the vine, babe. Yeah. Now that I have your attention, as you know, in our introduction of our essay, we do something called a hook. We do something to interest our reader, get them invested in our reading. Today, we're going to be going over the conclusion, where you're going to do the same thing, except you're going to do it at the very end of your essay. What is something that you can add to the end of your essay to leave your reader with something to think about, or something to keep your essay sort of in their head? In a conclusion needs to do three different things. The first thing it does is it reviews the main parts of your essay, basically bringing back up your thesis statement but using different words, maybe cutting it up into a couple of different sentences. The second thing an effective conclusion is going to do is it's going to answer the so what question that might be lingering in your reader's head. It explains to your reader why the debate you're taking part in is important for them to consider, especially if maybe the reader isn't directly involved in the debate in the first place. And then the last thing a conclusion should do is it leaves the reader with something thoughtful to think about. So it could be a quote, a question, or some kind of call to action. I'd like you to go into the exemplar essay and read over the very last paragraph, the conclusion paragraph, to see if it focuses on these three different parts. Does it review the main points of the paper? Does it answer so what? And does it also include some sort of thoughtful ending? Okay, so now at this point, we're going to go back into Google Classroom. I'm going to show you where your checklist is for your conclusion, so you can write up an effective conclusion, and hopefully this is going to be the last paragraph of your essay that you're going to need to work on. You might not totally be finished with your other body paragraphs. If that's the case, then that's something you're going to want to work on over the course of this weekend, so you can have it done by Monday. So, back on Google Classroom, if you go to the post right here, 4-3, the conclusion paragraph checklist, and click on it, it's going to give you your own copy. That's what you're going to be submitting by the end of the day on Friday, so I know that you're on track. Technically, it's not due till Monday, but let's face it, you don't want to do everything all at once, right? So the conclusion checklist is very similar to both the relevancy and the counter-argument checklist as well. You're going to read through these questions. First, you're going to go back to your intro and reread your thesis statement. You're going to answer the question, why is the debate I'm part of important? Why does my controversial issue matter to the random person reading my essay, especially if they're not directly involved? And you're going to ask yourself this last question, what are some interesting quotes, questions, or calls to action I could leave my reader with? How can I get my reader to remember my essay after they're done with the last sentence? So go ahead and pause the video here, ask yourself these questions, and especially go back to your outline, or if you've already written out your intro paragraph, and review your thesis statement so you can bring up your thesis statement again in your conclusion. Okay, and moving on, I'm going to show you my process of how I would write up a conclusion for my essay. So I'm taking a look at my outline over here. My thesis was students should not be forced to wear uniforms because they take away student individuality, they do not allow for self-expression, and they don't save families any money. So let me go ahead and rewrite that out using different words. I don't want to just copy it word for word because that's not interesting to my reader. That just sounds repetitive. So in conclusion, in our public schools, students should not be forced to wear uniforms. I'm going to go ahead and break this up into a couple of different sentences, even though my thesis in my intro sentence is only one sentence long, or intro paragraph is only one sentence long. This is because they What's the first thing I talked about? They take away a student's individual freedom, comma. What's the second thing I talked about? Let's see. They do not allow for self-expression. I'm going to use a different word. They stifle self-expression. And what's the third thing? They don't save families any money. They don't save families any money. I'm going to try and rephrase that. Instead of saying they don't save families any money, I'm going to say they place a financial burden on poorer families. So that's how I rewrite my thesis in different words. There is a website called thesaurus.com, that if you go to, if you're having trouble coming up with other ways to write words, you can type in a word like poor, and it will come up with a list of words that mean close to the same thing. The more highlighted the word is, the closer it is to its original meaning. Okay, moving on. So what? Explain to the reader why this debate is important for them to consider. Okay, well, I know families are, I know high school students are pretty concerned with like the restrictions that they have, but I think that the reason why this debate is important is if we continue to put too many rules and restrictions on high schoolers, we might start to see some high schoolers resenting adults in general. So there are already plenty of restrictions upon high school students, and these rules are acceptable because they help maintain order on a daily basis. However, requiring students to wear school uniforms is not helpful to maintaining order, which is why we need to get rid of them. They may seem like a good idea at first, but in the end, they would do more harm than good for both students and adults. So, give them something to think about. I'm going to end my conclusion the same way I began my introduction, with something interesting. I'm going to go with a question. I'm going to actually take a look at this last part of my outline when I talked about potentially using, I'm going to look at my counter argument paragraph when I mention maybe using bandanas instead of using school uniforms. I'm going to ask my reader a question. Wouldn't you rather wear a stylish bandana on your arm and dress the way you want to? So I asked a question of my reader, and that's how I'm going to end my essay. That's how I'm going to keep my reader thinking about my essay even after they're done reading it. You could also write in part of a quote. You can write in a call of action like, you should go to your local school right now and demand this, or something like that. Either way, something interesting to give your reader something more than just, okay, thanks for reading my essay, done, bye.